I normally don't talk politics on this channel, but I felt like this bill was important enough to bring up because it could change the landscape in our culture when it comes to wokeism, DEI, and ESG initiatives.
Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Airy. Welcome to the StudioJake vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring the little bell so you get notifications and consider becoming a channel member. All right, so I used to talk about politics a lot more on this channel, but it just got so boring. I mean, it's always the same. The Republicans do nothing and the Democrats get away with everything. So that's why I'm a registered independent. And I want to say from the outset that I know that this bill is going to pass, but I thought it was important enough to bring up. So apparently, some Republicans in Congress, they've gotten together and they've made a bill designed to defund DEI initiatives. And that is really good because it's basically been used as a scheme to cycle in sort of far left politics like Marxism and communism into our culture using cash. And in some cases, or actually, I should say, in most cases, your money is being used for this. So this is from The Hill, and I picked The Hill specifically because they were one of the first to report on this, and also because they still have some right wing commentary on it. They're not all left. Now, they do lean liberal, to be clear, but they at least have a balanced approach where they have some conservative voices as well. So, this is according to thehill.com. Republicans introduced measure banning DEI in federal government. Congressional Republicans have introduced a bill to ban diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) programs and funding in the federal government. The Dismantle DEI Act, introduced Wednesday by J.D. Vance, a Republican from Ohio, you might also know him, he's the one who wrote Hillbilly Elegy, would eliminate all federal DEI programs and end DEI related funding for agencies, contractors, organizations, and educational accreditation agencies that receive federal funding. The DEI agenda is a destructive ideology that breeds hatred and racial division, Vance stated in a statement. It has no place in our federal government or anywhere else in our society. I'm proud to introduce this legislation, which would root out DEI from our federal bureaucracy by eliminating such programs and stripping funding for DEI policies anywhere it exists. Americans' tax dollars should not be co opted to spread this radical and divisive ideology. This bill would ensure they are not. In 2021, President Biden issued an executive order that created a policy to cultivate a workplace that draws from the full diversity of the nation. The order also called for removing structural barriers to opportunities underserved and minorities communities face. I'm pretty sure discrimination is already illegal, so, what? Representative Michael Cloud, Republican from Texas, my home state. The measure's lead sponsor in the House DEI initiatives present as promoting a fairness, but have instead fostered division and racial bias within our institutions and culture. This bill is a necessary step to restore merit and equality, not equity, in America's government institutions and eliminate the DEI bureaucracy that sows division and wastes taxpayer money. Cloud said it's absurd to fund these divisive policies, especially using Americans' tax dollars, and it's time for Congress to put an end to them once and for all. In all, 15 Republicans have backed the bill. Wow, that's kind of low. So, this bill is a good thing. President Obama started that program right when he was reelected in 2012. This program basically, that's when you start to see a shift in our culture. Now, it blasted off in 2016, which we all know what happened there. But President Obama started this program where if people promoted sort of his Marxist view of the world, then they would get money. So, for instance, that's when you start to see a shift in DC and Marvel comic storytelling. That's when they start bringing in more diverse characters and doing all the race swaps, gender swaps, and sexual orientation swaps. Absolutely stupid, but it was so they could get more points. And then companies like Vanguard and BlackRock, they made this thing where they could invest money. So they would go to you and say, hey, we've started this ESG rating system. And if you pay us money, we'll rank you higher. And you just have to do a little lip service. But if you don't, I wonder what happened. Oh, we might rank you low. So it was just this big shakedown and money laundering scheme to change how our culture thinks and works. A lot of people say politics is downstream from culture. The opposite is true. culture is downstream from politics, and you can see that with how this scheme worked. So I'm glad that they're doing something about this, right? But I'm a little hesitant to think this bill is actually going to pass. Here's why. First of all, Biden is president. He's a Democrat. Democrats love to be a white savior, right? They love to write in and be like, "Oh, person of color, I'm above you and I'm here to just throw gifts at you." Which is what wokeism, DEI, and ESG is, right? It's pandering to people. It doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't actually solve any problems. It's just a bunch of posturing. And by the way, they have said for a fact that DEI and ESG is a rebranding of woke because they saw how the negative reaction of it is. So, for one thing, diversity, equity, and inclusion, they don't mean diversity. They mean people who agree with them. If there was real diversity, we would see more, you know, pandering to both sides, but that's not what's happening. It's pandering to the lowest common denominator. Equity, you can't enforce equity. Equity means equal outcome. That's not possible. Even in a world where it's enforced by government force, you can't have that. It's not possible. There's always going to be someone who's a little bit behind. Now, we can help them, we can push them, we can help them succeed, but it's just not possible for everyone to have the exact same outcome. All you do is make everyone a loser when you do that. Equality is important. That's equal opportunity. We can't get that. And inclusion, again, all they mean by inclusion is just people who agree with them. It's just euphemisms. It means absolutely nothing. The second reason I don't think this bill is going to pass is the Senate is controlled by the Democrats. You really think Chuck Schumer is even going to let this get to the Senate floor? Of course he's not. He's as corrupt as they come, hanging out with Ivan Putin and getting donuts with him, and then now he's posturing like he's all, the Ukrainian dictator's friend, during this, because I heard there's a conflict over in Europe. Somehow I'm supposed to care about this, but my taxpayer money is going to that as well. It's so ridiculous that they're using us to fund these programs. The third reason I don't think it's going to pass is only 15 Republicans in the House have backed it, and that's the one place where this bill could pass. But Republicans are the do-nothing party. The Democrats are the party of the commies. The Republicans are the party of the do-nothings. That's why I'm politically independent. That's why I haven't decided who I'm going to vote for in 2024. Or this year, I should say. I think that it's absolutely silly that we're even thinking this. Now, good for JD Vance, but he is on the short list to become President Donald Trump's vice presidential pick. But it's just boggling. Now, say this does by some miracle pass. Say the Democrats just do it because they're desperate to not seem like the party of the crazies. It gets passed in the House despite its low support at the early on, and Biden, just because they forgot to give him his meds, he signs it. Now, will they actually take action with all of this? Will they actually stop our money going to these movie companies, to these environmental organizations? Do we really expect that to happen? If so, you've got a bridge to sell you. Now, on the other hand, let's say it passes Congress. I still think Biden would veto this because, he's a Democrat, right? Like I said, they love pandering to people. So, it's possible that, or I should say, it's likely that if it gets to Obama's desk. Now, say RFK Jr. gets elected president, well, he's just as left wing as Biden. The only thing they disagree on is COVID policy. So, if it gets to his desk, he's not going to do this. He loves the environment. He loves to tax companies, or he would love to tax companies to help the environment, whatever that means, even though America is not really that high has a high environmental impact compared to China and India, but never mind that. And if it gets to Trump's desk, he might very well sign it, but I'm kind of hesitant to think that after, how he let Dr. Fauci take over our nation during the unconstitutional house arrest that they imposed on us during that, you know, area. So all that to say, good for JD Vance for at least advancing a bill. That's something that not other Republicans have even bothered to do. So good for him for doing that. I just don't think it's going to go anywhere. I honestly think this is just posturing. It's just an attempt to say, hey, look, we're trying something. And if anything, it gets the Democrats on the record, and it gets the Republicans who vote against it on the record to see where they really stand. But as far as I'm concerned, that's all that this bill is going to do. DEI, ESG, and wokeism, we're in for the long haul for it, and because it's permeated our pop culture so much. But hopefully, this will be a wake-up call to some people. If you like that video, be sure to give it a like. Be sure to leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. Share it out to all your friends and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on YouTube, click the little bell so you get notifications when I get a new video out, and consider becoming a channel member where you get all kinds of perks and plus access to videos ahead of the general audience. But if you're like, Jacob, I don't want to support you on big tech, no worries. If you're watching on Rumble, Odyssey, or BitChute, click on the link to my locals. It's in the description. It's a place where you can give me tips. You can support me monthly. It's kind of like a Patreon and Subscribe Star. I would love your support there. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.
Cause I've been living life right like I could just die